Hello and a warm welcome to the new BaxterStorey podcast, FYI. I'm Sam Wakeham and I will be your host for today's episode on food and mood. On today's show, I'm joined by Lizzie Henning, certified nutritionist for BaxterStorey, and Andy Aston, our head of wellness and nutrition. Together, Lizzie and Andy lead our amazing food and mood initiative, travelling up and down the country to spread the word about the importance of good food for a good mood. On this episode, Andy and Lizzie will guide us through the value of a healthy diet for our well-being and the potential link that food has on our mental health. This episode is also dedicated to raising awareness for this year's Mental Health Awareness Week theme, anxiety. So whether you're looking to learn how to boost your mood, reduce your anxiety, or simply learn more about the incredible power of food, you've come to the right place. Hi Andy, hi Lizzie, thank you so much for joining. Would you mind just both introducing yourselves for the audience?
Absolutely. So hi, I'm Lizzie, been with BaxterStorey coming on 2 years.
Wow.
Registered nutritionist with the Association for Nutrition, and loving taking the food and mood on tour.
Yeah, thank you. And Andy?
Welcome, Lizzie. Hi, I'm Andy. I've been with BaxterStorey about 5 years this time around, working in wellness and nutrition, but also from a chef background. Very interesting role. Loved it. I'm loving the food and mood that we're doing at the moment. We're going on a tour and we're going around and visiting some great places. So, that's me.
Oh, thank you. Well, that kind of leads up to my first question, which is, can you talk about how food plays such a big role on our mental health and our well-being?
Absolutely. It's a very big open question, that one. And
That is very open.
Very open, and it's probably then going to take us into the rest of what we're going to talk about. But food has a massive impact on our mood because of the link with the gut, which we're probably going to go into a bit more later. Yeah. And also what we touched on when we were chatting earlier about, it's not just when you're eating, it's when you're preparing it. But there's a lot of things we can delve into.
Yeah. Is there any specific foods that you should kind of be included into
whole
your
food,
diet?
we say, don't we?
Yeah,
whole food.
What do you mean by whole food?
So staying away from that ultra processed where you can, and whole food is when you're eating something that's you're doing the least to it as possible. So trying to keep it raw where you can, the least ingredients, and cooking from fresh and experimenting.
So when you say whole food,
Fruit, vegetables,
pulses, your beans, your bread, we would probably class as a whole food if you're making it at home. You don't, there's a lot of chat about that, the bread you can buy from the supermarkets. It's there for a purpose and it's probably needed, especially at the moment in the cost of living crisis. Yeah. But if you can, bread homemade or from a really good baker is what you want to look out for.
And do you have any recommendations?
good sourdough, we'd say, wouldn't we? Make it yourself if you can,
because
that's the process. But there's plenty of artisan bakers out there. If you can't make it yourself. Yeah,
have a look around, or even just looking at the flour you can buy. So obviously we talk a lot about Wild Farm, and Wild Farm have now partnered with M&S. So we're saying stay away from breads and the bakers, but actually if you can look for a good bread in a supermarket, look out for that Wild Farm flour that's being used a lot at the moment.
And I think when you cook and making bread, getting your hands in the flour it's quite a wonderful thing. It's quite daunting because you worry it could go wrong, but enjoying the therapeutic side of it, of making that dough, watching it rise, so your endorphins are up and down because it's excitement. I think it is anyway. I mean, I still struggle sometimes making bread because I get worried about it. But the reality is when you do make it, you've put the effort in, you've got to enjoy it more as well. So it's learn to make it yourself, I'd say as well.
I think that's a really important part as well for this week. It's Mental Health Awareness Week and we're talking about anxiety. So that kind of the making the bread and the cooking and getting back into the kitchen and learning how to cook your food, that kind of therapeutic part, that is really important.
Absolutely.
Well, you go, Lizzie. Sorry, I'm going to jump in there. So
I was just going to say there, the whole bread making thing. Andy and I often talk to people about, we're all having a lot of us have got stressful jobs, we're stuck for time. But if you can go home and instead of sitting in front of the TV, have a go at making bread. It might be a fail, but you can only get better. And then that bread that you can have with your meal afterwards, it's so rewarding.
And is that an expensive process?
No. Time. Flour, water, salt. Predominantly, unless you're adding other stuff to it, but they're the three foundations of it, three core ingredients. But I just want to share quickly a memory of cooking food with my mother when I was younger. I travelled around a lot. I know we haven't got a lot of time, but we travelled I went to a lot of schools, so I never really settled in anywhere. But I remember one particular day coming home from school, and Mum was in the kitchen singing, and she was making an apple pie. She was rolling out the paste with a glass milk bottle. The sun was shining. She was so happy. And I remember that moment. I use that as my anchor sometimes. If I'm not feeling great myself, I go back to that memory and I think, food can be quite fun. It doesn't have to be challenging if we plan a little bit, but we get in there and just get creative. And I remember the emotions I felt when my mum gave me that piece of apple pie. It made me feel really happy. So it cheered me up straight away because, when you move around a lot in schools, it can be quite challenging. You don't really make friends. But that apple pie cheered me up, and it kind of gave me an insight on what the future could look like. Feeding people, making food is a wonderful thing. I know time at the moment is quite precious, but I 100% endorse get into the kitchens yourself and try and just get creative. It's worth it. Even if you've only got a small budget, you can still buy cleverly, and you can just literally pull something together. There's plenty of recipes out there now, support. So.
And quickly on the bread and mental health bit, and obviously we're talking about the nutrition here, big part of our food and mood tour is the bread introduction at the start. And bread, unfortunately, has become really, really demonised, and people cut out their diet and see it's something to be avoided. Really doesn't need to be if you're getting the right stuff in there. And actually, as part of a balanced breakfast or having it with your dinner at home, it's something that can really be good for a balanced meal.
So my next kind of question is around gut and the second brain. Can you just explain to the audience, what does that mean? Because I'm hearing the second brain is the gut. What does that mean?
Yeah, so there's a big link between the gut and the brain, the nerves that link up to it, and the hormones that are produced from the different foods we eat, and obviously our gut microbiome, which is being spoken about a lot. Big part of food and mood, again, is 30 plants. We need to be feeding that gut with a variety of food. So that 30 plants, that's then feeding our gut microbiome and then creating that diverse culture in there. Yeah. And that keeping that happy has a direct effect on our mood, from the hormones, how you're feeling, gives you more energy. We're looking into a lot about how you can boost your mood throughout the day through what you eat. And there's a real direct link between the two.
And I keep hearing the word 30 plants. Does that mean 30 fruit and veg? Are we saying goodbye to 5 fruit and veg? What is 30
That's
plants?
the new. It's a kind of the new, but however, you can lead on to your book. But it's I think the food and mood tour as a whole, we celebrate a dish encompassing probably 22 maybe 23 ingredients in one dish. Now it sounds like a lot, but those ingredients are all cut differently. Some are cooked, some are not, some are blended. And it's literally about eating cleaner. And when you eat that little bowl of all those ingredients, you feel pretty good afterwards, don't you? And that's our message we're trying to get across. Yeah. When you sit there and eat it, it does feel good when you eat it. But going back to the plants, I mean, what do we say?
So 30 sounds a bit daunting, doesn't it? And the faces when we're in the room sort of drop when you say 30 across a week. But actually, it's your fruit and veg, which you think of as plants, nuts and seeds, your pulses and your beans, your herbs and spices count towards it a bit. Really? Black coffee in the morning, always a good one if you can get that.
Does tea count?
Not too much.
Not your tea, but your black coffee. But don't put your syrups in there, because obviously that's but actually, when you start counting, and like Andy said, when we do the food and mood, you give people a little taster bowl, and there's already 22 in there.
What is it that you're sharing?
It's basically a pulse. It's a bean hummus of some sort. Yeah, we vary it throughout the seasons, and basically we incorporate waste not. So waste not, the business will load of waste not, but it's about using up the vegetables that are packed full of nutrition that would normally go either in the ground or go to waste. And those veg, we showcase them at their best. We talk about that in depth. That thing that looks a bit different to what you see in the supermarket is actually better for you than what's in the supermarket. So it's not called wonky. It's what nature wants to give us. Yeah. So that's what we try and encompass. Surplus stuff, we try and encompass that within that dish. So the prep's kind of all laid out on the table, and we just talk through all the individual ingredients, the vegetables, and just what they do for you, and eating seasons, eating the rainbow we talk about a lot, don't we?
Yeah, and a big part of it, you touched on it earlier, you said about ultra processed. What we always try and do in the food and mood is a lot of it's raw, and it's as untouched as we can keep it. So raw beetroot, raw parsnip, and people say, you normally roast it and you put oil on it, but actually keeping that food as raw as possible. One, it's your 30, but also you're getting the most nutrients out of it possible.
So once you start putting one of your 30 plants through a process, does that then not make it one of the 30, or does it depend on what the plant is?
It would still be one of your 30, but as soon as you start cooking something or blitzing it, or you're starting to process it before it gets into your body. Yeah. So the rawer you keep it, the more nutrients you'll be getting from it. But also, obviously, if you want that cooked parsnip, it's better than not having it at all. Yeah.
And we have some fun with that. Raw parsnip. People are like, can you eat it raw? We had a lady last week. Yes, and it actually.
I wouldn't want to, but yeah, you can.
But when you do, we cut it a certain way. We take the core out the middle, but the peeling goes into stock. But we keep in some acidulated water, basically water and lemon, overnight, and that adds a little bit of flavour, acidity to it. But the texture is wonderful.
We're talking about mental health and everything, keeping things fun. Actually trying to get your 30 is quite an exciting thing to do, because we've had people messaging us saying, Wednesday, I'm already on 31. So, people start counting it and they get there way quicker than they thought they would.
And how can I kind of manage if I've got my 30? Is there like a checklist? Where can I go for that?
So we're thinking about doing a bit of a checklist that we'll put out that people could have. There's definitely things online you can already do, but it's about just, going into that shop, trying different things, and it's all about giving your gut that variety.
Oh, that's really interesting. So obviously going back to the gut and how what we eat impacts our mood, is there any direct correlation? So if I was to eat, I don't know, a blueberry, would I then feel happy or sad? Is it as simple as that, or is it a little bit more complex?
So there's lots of different foods that are going to affect you differently, and we will react differently to certain foods, but obviously some of the obvious ones are, if you start your day with something sugary like a bowl of sweet cereal or a pastry, you're going to have that sugar spike. So you might come into the office and feel, wow, I'm full of energy, but you will soon drop off really quickly. Right. So we even say to people, avoid that sugar for breakfast, be having even your hummus pot or your egg for breakfast.
Oh, really? So
and then
go for a savoury.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say it's so much the individual foods. There are definitely certain foods like your dark chocolate will help boost your mood. Mm-hmm. But it's more the group of food, so like trying to avoid the sugar spike, eating things that are going to keep you fuller for longer.
Yeah, and I think there's a mental aspect in there as well. It's about a bit of discipline. If you're eating a piece of cucumber, for instance, how do you feel? What I'm trying to get at, you probably need to edit that bit. What I'm trying to get at, I fast intermittently every other day now, and I write down everything I eat, everything I drink, whatever I do in that day, I write it or I capture it, and then I match that against my my working day. So I'll go back to the end of the week and I say, how did I feel when I fasted that day? I'm fasting today, by the way, so it's a 20-hour fast. How did I feel at work? And 99% of the time, I feel brilliant. I feel energized. It's really bizarre because, let's be honest, are we ever really hungry? Do you ever feel hunger? There's people that do feel hunger, and I think we just get so used to eating at certain times of the day because we're very in a privileged position. I think, so for me, I feel really good. And I have that one meal a day and I get home at night and there's a big bowl of vegetables and chickpeas or something. And I sit there and I find myself eating slower. So I'm chewing, which is good for the gut. And I really enjoy it. I feel so nourished. And I wake up in the morning, I feel great. I feel really, really good. So I'm not saying, try and fasting, but why not look at it? Because it's proven it does work. It can work. Not for losing weight and stuff like that, but for mentally, I feel totally different than if I'd gone out and eaten a big, 3-course meal and then had loads of bread and whatever. I feel totally off the charts. I mean, in terms of my performance, I feel brighter, more alert. So yeah, that's
what made you want to make the decision to fast every
day? A lot of reasons. If we're going into history, of my own mental health journey, I used to struggle with sabotage. I used to binge eat quite a lot, and because I wasn't happy, there was stuff in my life that were making me feel unhappy. So I binge eat, all the rubbish because I thought it made me feel better. It didn't make me feel better. It made me feel worse because I looked worse. And I looked in the mirror and I'm like, wow, what's going on here? So I thought, well, I've got to find a way of fixing that. How can I find food that I'm happy with and I enjoy? But I still got a trigger in me that if I fail something, I'll self-sabotage. I'll go off like we all do sometimes. We might go and have a treat, like a drink or whatever. So I think for me, I need to find some discipline. Not to lose weight, not for anything else, but to feel comfortable in your body. And when you do fast, you do feel have you fasted before yourself?
Yeah, I do it a bit.
No, I haven't.
Have you tried it?
Not intentionally. I might have skipped
a
couple of meals.
But if you try it, what happens? Your body doesn't make any noises. It's almost like you feel very peaceful. I do anyway. I feel so peaceful. I can sit there and hear nothing. And I don't know. It's like it just makes me feel quite nice in myself.
And also you touched on, I think it came from your question as well, there's a lot out there online about these foods. There are mood boosting foods, and I think that, your dark chocolate, your good fats, they're known to boost your mood. But what Andy's saying about fasting is if you want to find out for yourself what's going to make you feel good, you should take that. It doesn't have to be 20 hours, it could be 10 hours. Take that fast, then eat some really clean meals that have got your fresh whole foods in there and see what makes you feel good. Because obviously there's all these expensive tests that we can do, but to make it applicable to everyone, have that fast and then try eating a really nourishing bowl of food and you will notice the difference rather than grabbing that quick packaged sandwich or something like that.
That's easy, isn't it? If you think about it, we talk about the basics, don't we, of drinking water, the good habits to form, because so many people don't know how much water to drink and stuff like that. But starting from the basics, the foundations, it's starting with water, for instance. If you start with there and you just move into other realms, you'll find a good habit, and it's all habit forming at the end of the day.
That is what it is habits, isn't it? And it's making sure we
and actually you probably put the nail on the head. Actually, we talk about the food, but if you're dehydrated, that they say the gut and the brain connection there, if you're dehydrated, you're instantly going to feel a lot worse. And actually, aren't you dehydrated before you're even thirsty?
I have my water now.
Yeah, have a bit of water.
But water, it is so important to drink that water because it does make you feel hydrated. It makes you feel good. It makes you look good as well. If you drink enough of it, look at me, I'm 49 years of age, I've got great skin.
You look amazing. Tip, hydrate, and fast every day.
And a few 30 plants for winning.
But it is challenging. I think a lot of it comes down to the fact that you have to be a little bit disciplined, and go without something for a bit. Just try it, because you'll be surprised at the journey you'll go on. And that's fasting.
That's really interesting. Thank you. So we've just spoke about the gut. Do you have any stories, or do you know of any people that have benefited from improving their diet?
Absolutely. My sister
Yeah.
has had IBS for ages, and obviously I'm in the role I'm in, and she's always asking questions, whatever. And she did the fasting, completely clear, went clean, and then just tried different foods. And I think, Andy, actually, you had an allergy test. She had an allergy test, and it told her to cut out everything. But life is too short to cut out everything. And I actually say to people when we're chatting at Food and Mood, it's about adding things in that will benefit. So look at your fermented foods. Look at starting to make your own bread and doing those added extras rather than taking things away. And obviously avoid things that that aren't good. But there's a lot more you can do additional things you can do to then help your gut.
So it's more about, rather than removing all of the bad things, try and balance it out with more better things to do.
Absolutely. I think people, you're never going to stop people eating certain things, but if you do have a night where you've had a glass of wine and a bowl of pasta and you feel a bit sluggish the next day, look at what you can do the next day to then help combat that.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And anxiety specifically, have you seen any evidence to suggest that what we eat can help our anxiety?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to me, for example. I do get anxiety. We all get anxiety of some form, don't we? But I think it does come down to what I eat. I found that now it's what I eat. What I drink, it makes a massive difference in my day. Like this morning, for instance, I was up at 4. Don't get up at 4 a.m. if you don't need to, especially if you're getting old. But I was up at 4 a.m, but I slept for 5 solid hours, which is good for me. And I went out for a run. I've been injured. I went out for a run. I had loads of water this morning. I'm fasting. I feel pretty good considering. So for me, it's just keeping it really simple, but just taking myself out of my comfort zone as well. Yeah.
And I think that anxiety thing, with what you eat, definitely has a massive part to play in it. And I think a lot of people overthink it. Actually, Food for Life, Tim Spector, we've touched on that a bit. It's all about taking it back to basics. It doesn't need to be complicated. But like Andy said, little changes and, putting good things back in will really help your, if you're suffering a bit from anxiety.
Yeah. So I know we've kind of touched on ultra-processed foods. I just wanted to get your opinions on them, really. Because they're not, we can't just sit here and say, don't eat any ultra-processed foods. That's not, one, realistic, and it's two, it's not, cost of living at the moment. We have to just be really, reasonable with ourselves.
Most food goes through factories. Most food
it's
does
impossible
go through factory.
I think I read somewhere that 50% of the food that's consumed in the UK is either processed or ultra-processed.
Absolutely. And I think there's a big debate going on and a lot of articles coming out at the moment saying if you were to avoid ultra-processed foods, you literally would be just living off whole plants, which I'm sure a lot of people could do, but it's not feasible for a lot of people.
It's really not.
And we touched on the sliced bread. It has to be there because it is a lot of people that will be their 3 meals a day, maybe with a can of baked beans. And actually, if you're going to have a piece of sliced bread and some canned baked beans, there's worse you could be having.
Yeah.
So they've got their place and they have to stay there. But what we talk about is eating whole foods where you can, and actually going to the supermarket and buying a lot of vegetables if you then know what to do with it when you get home. Yeah. So I think we always talk about the education piece.
We talk massively on the education piece. It's up to us to educate. So Food and Mood allows us to connect with people we wouldn't normally connect with, and we're able to supply recipes and give them tips, and they are quite basic. The thing is, we've got all the answers. We have all the answers. Everyone needs to have food. We have enough food in this country to feed everyone, but we just struggle to get it there. And I think it comes down to the fact that it's the education piece. It has to come down to education. It's that simple.
What could we be doing differently to educate people from a younger age? What are your thoughts on?
I think we do quite a bit already, don't we? So like the Chefs Up to School stuff is great because they're learning from a young age. What we want to do with Food and Mood is get it, we've got so many sites out there that want it, and this is a great way to start getting the messages out. It's that education piece, because actually you tell one person something and they go, oh, I'm going to tell all my friends that, and the message is spread. So the more and more people we can educate around it and just start spreading the word.
And then they can spread the word to the local schools and get in touch.
And the schools are the big place that we need to be helping.
And that's what we're trying to do. Chefs Adopt School, you mentioned that earlier on. Chefs Adopt School is massive. It's across the UK, and it's educating kids from between the age of 8 and 11 about where food comes from. And it's that simple. But we've got to do more on that. But again, going back to the Food and Mood, we touch so many different people from clients through to our own teams, which is great. When we have a catch up with our teams, the stuff we talk about, we had a Swede. Some people don't know what a Swede is, and it's probably the most, I don't know, it's everywhere. It's one of the probably most...
They see it mashed probably most
Yeah,
of
they
the
probably
time.
see it mashed, but a Swede, we cut it into a very thin strips, julienne for the chefs. And a lot of people think it's cheese, vegan cheese.
Really? Wow.
Which is very strange, but they eat it and they're like,
I can't figure out what it is.
No, then they eat the raw stuff, more raw beetroot, and like I said earlier on, it's all about education piece, and it's up to us. And by Food and Mood will allow us to do that. The more places we get to, the more people we touch, we can, definitely make a difference. We've got a lot more to do though. We've got a lot more to do on that front.
And also, like we only have about 45 minutes, an hour with people, or sometimes a pop in. But I put on my LinkedIn the other day because it was just so nice coming away from one we did. Is this girl? I don't eat vegetables. I don't want to try anything, but she was there for the whole session. And by the end of it, she was the one having the vegan cheese, trying the whole pot. And she came up to me and said, "I want more recipes. I want to change the way I eat.
Wow.
I've learned so much."
Minutes.
That 45 minutes when we can get to more people is so impactful. So it's that education piece and trying and really encouraging.
And it's down to trauma. I think childhood trauma, and what I mean by that is stuff that you were made to eat when you were younger. We've all got stuff that we probably don't want to eat ever again because it may have come from a tin, or it may have been overcooked or undercooked, whatever. But food's moved on a bit now. We've got there's a lot more avenues to look at in terms of social media and the internet. It's down to that part. You said there. Do you remember that the lady that did like beetroot, never eat beetroot all her life, scared of it. And we just watched her. We observed her eat it. She was petrified. But she ate it and she was like, wow, I've been missing out. So I think you need to open your mind a little bit more, be a bit braver, be a bit curious. Don't be scared. And, if we're telling you it's good, maybe try and believe us because we got Lizzie.
You're the expert.
Yeah, Lizzie's the expert.
And also I feel like when we stand there with them and take them through the 30 plants and, eat the rainbow because of the polyphenols in there and what it's doing to your gut, they're then engaged and they want to try it because they think, well, if I can get into this, it's going to make me feel a lot better. And, then we often hear people a week later saying, God, I've tried it, I'm feeling a lot better, when can you come back? And it just starts from that little thing and then they're hopefully on a bit of a journey.
Should we talk about the asparagus?
Oh yeah, go on, talk about it.
What's the asparagus?
So just to go back again, so in June last year, Food and Mood was born at one of our contracts over in Cambridge, and we had about 4 or 5 people, didn't we? And I think asparagus. So asparagus is well in season now, it's beautiful. One of the guys that came along didn't eat asparagus because it did something to his pee. And it made him nervous. So we started having a conversation around pee. Why not? Why don't we? What happens?
So as soon as you eat asparagus, it's a sulfur that's coming out, and it will happen pretty quickly because of your digestion. So often you can eat asparagus 10 minutes later, you might smell it, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It just shows that your body is digesting.
That's a good thing.
And
then.
But
exactly.
That's what's so great about the Food and Mood. It's sort of informative, interactive. We laugh, but everyone takes away something they've learned, and that will probably stick with him for.
And again, it's another example of people not trying stuff because they're concerned
They're
that something wrong with them.
about something that they've heard or a fad or something that
they've read it somewhere.
Yeah, like an old wives' tale. Like, oh, don't eat asparagus.
Yeah, it's gonna make you smell.
It's gonna make you smell. But it's actually really good for you.
Yeah,
it is.
So Lizzie, you just said something about eating the rainbow, and it does something to your gut. Can you just explain what you meant by that?
Yeah, so we've spoken about a lot about 30 plants a week and whatever, but another big thing we talk about, and if you see the setup, you've probably seen on our photos, it's all about colour. Yeah. And the 30 plants, it's about variety and looking at different plants you can get, but also looking at different colours. So it was actually interesting, I read the other day, you can get lots of different colours as carrots and asparagus, so you've got your purple, your white, your green, and actually they would all count as a different point. Because of the different colour in there, you're getting different nutrients from there.
What do you mean by points, or is that one of your plants?
So one of your plants.
Oh, okay, so it's the rainbows then going over to the plants.
So I read that if you're having a purple carrot and an orange carrot, it would be 2 different points. But if you had the same carrot, it's only 1 because of the different nutrients and polyphenols you're getting from there.
And you need more of a variety.
Exactly. More of the variety to create that diverse gut microbiome. So eat the rainbow, eat your 30 plants, and your gut will be happy.
And eat the seasons. Eat the season. When stuff's in season, it's at its ultimate best.
Yeah.
So eat the seasons.
Yeah. And it's also better for the environment. It's going to taste a lot better.
Exactly. Yeah. And those polyphenols have that antioxidant effect. So, we're all a bit stressed, cold season's over now, but we want to still keep fighting it. So it's, really, really beneficial for you.
Yeah. You have so much knowledge. Who are your food heroes? Who do you look to for inspiration and for knowledge on food?
I look to Lizzie.
I think we all look to Lizzie. Lizzie, who do you look to?
Well, I think
Me.
but Andy and I have been on we're on a journey together with our own knowledge, but mine at the moment, and has been for the past 6 months or so, I'm really hoping that we can get a chance to chat to him at some point, is Tim Spector. Yes. Everyone's reading his books, everyone's listening to his podcast, even my friends that, don't have the foodie background, they've read it and they can relate to it because it's just taking it back to basics. Yeah. And I think, he's made it really relatable, and, we're talking about mental health and cost of living and everything. He's taken it back to the basics so that everyone can get involved. He's got the amazing tests that you can do and be part of, but he also makes it very relatable for everyone. And I just think, nutrition doesn't need to be boring, it doesn't need to be expensive, it needs to be back to basics, and that's what he's really done.
And what about him, like, have you taken away and that you give out on an everyday basis?
What have I taken? Don't make it complicated. Be experimentative, because that's what he does, you know, try a bit of fermenting in the kitchen. I really like, he's just taking it back to basics. Everyone can do the 30 plants at home. Everyone can try it in the rainbow. You can get your children involved. And at the same time, he's also part of the really amazing research that's going on about your gut, that, you know, is probably more and more has got to come from it. But he always admits as well, it's never stopping. Like, we're always learning, aren't we? It's never going to be, here's the answer. And he's on that journey with everyone, and just doing a really good job, I think.
Oh, that's really
And you've got us reading his book as well. Which
everyone's reading it.
Everyone's reading the book, so it's a big book.
It's Lizzie's Bible. I said to her, I've never seen a book that looks so well read.
But I even have people now across the business and messaging me saying, I'm on page so-and-so, I never knew this, but I'm doing this at home. So, you know, it's working.
I think going back to Tim, it's interesting because you can get a bit brainwashed with books and stuff they're out there, but I think it's having an open mind. You know, read the book, but then take your own learnings from it. It's not gospel that you have to follow that. I think we've got to be more curious. But my food hero at the moment is Kirk Howarth. Yeah, so Kirk's one of our chef partners. He's a plant-based chef. He wants to drop the word plant, but you know, we did an event last night, and I ate this dish which was basil puree, a roasted tomato, and cashew cream. It sounds very simple, but it was the most tasteful food I've ever eaten. It was so simple. It was clean. I felt amazing after it. Kirk is at the top of his game in terms of, you know, his own journey with Lyme disease. You know, he talks a lot about how he spent a lot of money trying to find a cure or trying to find something to help him, but he found food as his comfort, and it helped him mentally. You know, he uses a lot of seaweed. He talks passionately about it, but he puts colour into every plate of food he does. But it's not colour for no reason. It's natural colour. So it's green, but it's natural. It's red, but it's natural through the cooking process. And again, he doesn't do a lot with it, but what he delivers is a clean plate of food that is. I'm not going to use the word healthy, but I'm going to use the word bloody lovely, because it just, I don't know, it just doesn't feel like you're eating anything bad. It feels like you're eating what you should be eating, if that makes any sense.
But it's nourishing, isn't it? When
it's very nourishing.
It's got the colour in there for all those reasons we've spoken about, and the ingredients he used just make you feel good. He's knocking it out of the park at the moment, and he's ahead of his game, and he's a brilliant bloke as well. He's a good mate, and I think he seconds that book.
And he seconds that book as well. Yeah. And he's part of our business, which is great to have him in the business, educating our teams as well. You know, so and he's very down to earth. But seeing his journey personally from where he was to now, he's just very, I don't know, he's very zen. He's very calm. He eats the right things. He knows what he's doing. But yeah, he's doing some good stuff.
And is that what you look for when you're looking for someone for inspiration, and, you know, you're looking at someone who you can just relate to?
I think you definitely want to look at someone who's, you know, like you say about Kirk, when you talk to him, he is just, you know, he's doing very well at the moment. He's very healthy after his journey, and you want someone who's calm, collected. But also, you know, when you listen to someone like Tim or the guys on the podcast at the moment, they are just very open. None of them are, this is right, let's try this, you know, have a bit of a play around and see what works for you.
And that's the thing, isn't it? Not one rule for you would be the same for me. Everyone's different. We all have different microbiome
absolutely
going on here.
And I was talking to someone yesterday about that we were doing this, and one thing I would say to everyone, there is no rule fits everyone. And also, don't cut out, we always say to people, don't cut out your sweet treat if you want it, but it's, you know, having those sustainable changes that are going to make you feel good.
Wouldn't life feel so much easier if there was one rule and there was the right way and the wrong way? But why isn't there? So that we know, okay, I'm doing the right thing. Or do you think that would just kill the fun?
It's not a tough question. I just think it goes back to basics again. I really do, because it's complicated. You go to a supermarket and you're like overwhelmed with what's available to you, and you go to a restaurant and what do I eat? It's very confusing, and that can confuse you as well. So that will stress you out anyway. It stresses me out. Trying to book a table at a restaurant stresses me out, because where'd you go? There's so many places. So I think you're right in what I say. I for me, it's kind of having some food in my life that makes me feel happy. So I always make sure I have that at home in the fridge, whether it's vegetables or grains. I always make sure there's something waiting for me, you know, when I get home. So I know I've got that to look forward to.
And I think people do get a bit stressed about what's right, what's wrong. Like, we've had half an hour to chat today. This is a topic that could be discussed for ages. Like, we go into supermarkets, you're faced with so many things, the offers that probably try and trap people. But I think, like Andy said, take it back to basics and try and enjoy it. And eating should be enjoyable. Something that, you know, should make you feel better.
It kind of goes into my next question. I think you've sort of answered it. What can we do at home to adjust our habits and our lifestyle to have a healthier diet for our well-being. But I think you're right, is the basics, adjusting the basics, enjoying it, but making sure you're making the right decisions. But what if you don't know what the right decisions are? Who should you be looking to? Do you then pick up Tim Spector's book? Or
I think you've got to be really careful what's out there on the internet at the moment, and especially Instagram and TikTok, because there's a lot of people throwing things around that aren't always...
They look easy to do, but in reality they're...
And it's maybe not always right.
And the information just might be wrong. There might be a diet fad or something going around.
And I don't want to use it to blow my own trumpet. I'm going to do a little bit here. The accreditation and stuff like that is there for a reason. So if you are looking for advice on what's right, what's wrong, look for something like that, or look for, there's even emails you can email for people for like sort of free advice. TikTok has it, TikTok does good things, but also there's some stuff out there that really isn't. But again, back to basics and thinking outside the box is what we like.
So at home, I think having a good store cupboard of basic ingredients, whether it's chickpeas, pulses, grains, rices, whatever it might be, some seeds maybe. Having veg in the fridge, have stuff prepared, have ready to go. Give yourself a chance as well. Maybe find time in your day to do a little bit of prep in advance. So if you're going to be busy at work, do something in advance that you've got something to look forward to when you get home. Because there's nothing where you get home, you say you've got no food. I don't know how many times you go into a cupboard and I've got nothing to eat. Really, look at all that. Yeah, but you've probably got loads of stuff.
Not cooked it.
And exactly, I've got to cook it, I've got time, I've got to do this. Give yourself a chance. Maybe it's a Sunday afternoon or something. Make yourself a batch of hummus and have it ready to go. So when you come home at night, it's there. You've got to set yourself up for success. And I mean that in the right way, because that dedication there, you'll enjoy it later because you'll make the right choice. It's there when you get home rather than a pizza coming or whatever. It's okay to have a pizza, but set yourself up for 3 or 4 days of goodness, and that's, have a good larder and just make that part of your checklist every week. Right, I must have broccoli, courgettes, whatever, and a few other bits that they're there.
I think you've just led us on to what else we talk about food and mood, because we call it good food, good mood when we're out there, and it's not just about the food we're eating. But like Andy said, you might sometimes look and be like, oh gosh, there's nothing to have, but actually make it fun. So if you've got children at home, or if you're a big family, make it a bit of a, like we've got all this in the cupboard, what are we going to make today? And the cooking bit should be the bit that makes you feel good as well, not just the sitting down and eating it.
The enjoying the cooking, but to some people that is really daunting. There are people out there who just hate cooking. So what do you say to those people that go, I hate cooking, I've never enjoyed it, I just want something quick? What is a quick way to do that?
Again, I'm going to start with the very basic. It should go back to schools as well. Again, it's the practical education. We need to eat to live. We need to eat, don't we? We have to eat. We need fuel to do it. So I think I'd start... It's a tough question because if you don't love food and you don't like cooking it...
you're not really going to afford... Yeah, the one thing I would say there, and obviously they are there, like your packaged sauces and whatever, and you touch on ultra-processed, they are probably one of the things you really do want to avoid.
Rice is quite,
but if you hate... Experiment, see if there's something else you like. What would you say?
Learn to cook.
Learn to love it.
I would say
learn to love it.
Yeah, spend a bit of time looking at some books. There's a great internet out there where you can find everything. You're going to find something you love, whether it's a banana cake or something. Just learn to cook something yourself, and I think that's a kind of knock-on effect. Once you get good at something, you'll kind of do it a bit more. And I think find yourself a great local fruit and veg shop if you can, somewhere local that you've got to go past or on your way. Just support that as well. But I think you've just got to start from somewhere. Give yourself a little chance. I mean, it's not probably answering your question, but
what about those quick recipes we talk about? Like quick, easy. Is it Bettina did quick ones? Or...
Yeah. Listen, it's a difficult question. I would just be curious and I would just check everything out. Just look through food books and all the other stuff, and you'll find something you love to cook. You will if you persist.
And like you said, there are quick recipes out there that for those people who just absolutely persist on not ever liking the cooking process, there must be something quick out there.
Definitely. And I think people always think eating healthily is not doable on a budget, but again, it's going to go back to the education piece. So if you've got a few recipes and you know what you're doing, you can get some great vegetables in from a farm shop, supermarket, wherever it may be. Do some bulk cooking with your pulses in your cupboard, and you will make some delicious recipes, and it can be fun. So have a go. Look out for some good recipes.
What have you got in your fridge tonight?
We're having pulses.
Oh.
Yeah, what have you got?
I'm going to have dinner tonight.
Well, we are making it into a curry, so
lovely.
Delicious.
So you make a curry.
Lovely. Yeah.
Oh, what advice would you give to someone who's on a really tight budget, and you know 20-30 pounds on the weekly shop?
Pulses.
There
is so much you can do with pulses and veg. We've been talking about making pulses more of the heart of the meal rather than just putting them in something.
dry ingredients. So look down those. I mean, I won't say the name, but there's a supermarket where you go down the international aisle, and you can buy bags of pulses for a pound a bag. 500 grams. You soak them; they almost double in size. So you get good value. That could become a hummus. That could become a stew of some sort. It could become a soup. So you've got the foundation there, haven't you? And then look at things like seeds, like bags of seeds. If you can get a couple of bags of those in your shop, roast them off, have them in the cupboard, so you can just add a spoonful of them to something. Vegetables as well. We've talked about the basics of onions and carrots, all the stuff that you need. That's the foundation of a soup.
Definitely. And we spoke about, how a chicken, people buy chicken breasts and they say that's expensive. But actually, if you look at buying a whole chicken, roast it off, you can get so many meals out of it. So if you're someone that wants to have that chicken, look at doing the whole chicken rather than buying your breasts and your thighs separately.
Yeah. What about frozen veg? What are your thoughts on?
Oh, absolutely. We did a bit on frozen veg for something the other day. And if you one, you can store more of it and it's there if you need it quickly. And actually, because it's frozen, when it's picked straight away, it's just as nutritious. Just don't boil it. Try and steam it if you can to keep as much nutrients in there.
I actually read somewhere that it's more nutritious than
Well, it's frozen straight away.
Yeah, because it's been frozen straight away.
And especially then if you steam it and don't boil it, it will be
the boiling part is what just kind of
you'll lose a lot of nutrients from that.
That's good.
It's about not overcooking it. I'll give you an example. Frozen spinach makes the best soup.
Yeah, and you don't have to do much to it. You don't have to
defrost it overnight, press all the water out of it, you've got a great soup. So frozen veg 100%.
And they're really good for eating on a budget. Fill your freezer with that.
Yeah, I will do. Well, I do have some. I have lots of berries as well that I kind of put into smoothies and things like that. Do you recommend smoothies or juices?
Oh, this one is the one that could be debated for a while. They've got their purpose, and it means you're going to be getting a lot of your 5 a day, your 30 plants across a week. But as soon as you blend something or smoothie it, it goes back to that. You're processing it, so you're not getting as much of the fibre. And we've not touched on fibre really today, but fibre is such a big part of keeping your gut healthy. So I would say, have a smoothie maybe once or twice a week, but look at eating that fruit whole and raw where you can.
I mean, I think it seems to be smoothies seem to be one of those things that you just chuck whatever's in your fridge, don't you? And you think it's going to do you good.
And actually, you've got like 5 pieces of
fruit
in there.
And it's just all sugar, right?
Yeah.
I did it the other day. I put some pomegranates, some raspberries I'd frozen, and some plums, and it was delicious. But I know it's full of sugar. But you just naturally think that it's going to do you good. So there are a place for them. But again, going back to its mental health and stuff like that, go out and find it. Everywhere, especially wherever you go now, you'll find something that grows. No, even in London. I walked past a place the other day. I found wild garlic and figs, just walking down the street in London. When you go and forage, you're out in nature. So you're feeling great anyway. Might be a bit noisy with the traffic, but try and get away from that if you can, and go and find your own thing. And that again is it's sort of a hunter-gatherer thing, isn't it? Going out hunting for your food and then coming back again. You've worked for your food, so you're going to enjoy it more.
Do you do that a lot yourself?
I love it. Yeah, so especially blackberries. I love blackberries. I buy loads of them. Best way for them, just wash them, put them on a tray, freeze them, and then put them into a bag. You've got them all year round. I'll give you a prime example. Apples. You used to walk past houses years ago, and there'd be free apples, wouldn't there?
Everyone would have an apple tree.
Yeah, but now because no one takes them because we buy them perfect from the supermarket. Yeah, they fall to the floor, which is good for the nature, the ground. Sorry. So yeah, go out and do it yourself. I love it. Wild garlic season, anything like that, you can go and pick it.
I ate wild garlic for the first time on a walk. It really was, and I was like, "What? Oh, I don't know. What if a dog?"
Did you wash it?
No, I just picked it.
Can I click that quickly on that sugar bit, because I know we're focused on mental health and whatever.
No, absolutely.
And the smoothie thing, and you touched on the apples. If you wanted to see how something made you feel, actually, if you eat a smoothie that's got your apples, your raspberries and your strawberries in it, you will feel probably great for sort of half an hour. Yeah. But where that breakdown's happen, your sugar is going to spike really quickly. If you eat an apple whole and it takes you a bit longer, someone was talking about actually when you're eating an apple, it's quite a long process. Your sugar release will be a bit slower. So it's quite a fun thing to try. Start a day with an apple and maybe something else, and start a day with a smoothie, and you will notice the difference.
Really? That's so interesting. So for about 2 years, I was having smoothies every morning, and I felt great for that first couple of hours, and then
a bit hungry.
Dived straight in, and I'd be starving. Yeah, and they were all berries, strawberries, all of that kind of stuff, and I thought I was being so healthy, and I really wasn't. And again, that was the TikTok, seeing it on Instagram.
That's a big brainwash thing out there.
Really,
the juice stuff,
I really thought that I was being healthy, and then I recently found out I was probably doing a lot more damage than good.
But if you think about it, what's the word I'm going to use here? The word trend gets used a lot, especially with food. It frustrates the life out of me because we need to stop doing that as well, because that's not sustainable. We've got all the answers. Again, it's about the simplicity of basic understanding. And again, we spoke about it earlier. That's what we need to get away from. And I don't know how we do that, because of social media is so massive now that it's all over it. But what am I trying to get at here?
Taking it back to basics.
Just taking it back. Start with this. Just start with that, and gradually. But treat yourself. You know, you can have your smoothie, but just treat yourself. Again, it's just down to balance and being prepared for the week. And that word
sustainable that you said.
Yeah, nothing's sustainable. Nothing is sustainable. You know, we put a trend out, and all of a sudden we really cause havoc to that environment because everyone wants it, and then we get bored of it and we move on to something else.
Yeah, and you've left something dark.
Yeah. In this country, we have got enough vegetables, for everyone. But we don't eat them, we import. So we've really got to ensure that we eat what we've got here. We've got so much fruit and vegetables, you would not believe what we've seen. So again, it's like support local where you can and eat the seasons, and you're going to get everything you need. And get creative yourself. You know, it's great to see all that stuff on social media. You know, I was part of that. I used to do stuff, but go and do it yourself. Have a go at it. Use that as inspiration, but try and do your own thing.
Well, I suppose when you were doing something on social media as well, you had that knowledge and you knew what you were doing. It wasn't like someone who hasn't got that knowledge that you both have, creating smoothies, telling us that we should be having that, and they might have like a really high following, but
that's the problem with social media.
We need to just be aware who we're following and who we're taking advice from as well.
And ask questions. You know, ask people around, and
we'll be asking you, Lizzie, every 5 seconds. Should I be having this in the morning?
But if you go back to the hunter-gatherer piece, I think, I mean, I'm a little bit older than I'm a bit older anyway. But I think back to those days of we had water from a tap, you know, and then we'd pick fruit and vegetables wherever we were. We never really were hungry. We were nourished enough, but we were outside.
Moving.
There was no stress in that. We were so active and healthy. And again, that was right the way up to probably the age of 16, 17 where I lived. And we can do that still because it's a wonderful feeling, you know, being out in the fresh air is great for our mental health. And I had the best time ever. And I think we can, all right, it's a bit more built up now, but we can still do those things. We can still go and hunt for our food, whether it's shopping for our food, but going further than we normally would. I just think, you know, being outside as well, especially for me, like I said, it just back to basics.
And I think that you've touched on something that we've not spoken about. We always talk about exercise and being outside, and that, you know, that is one of the biggest things you can do for your mental health. Yes, go home and cook, but go home, like you said, go and have a bit of fun, see if you can find some wild garlic, but move. That's one of the biggest things that will help. It helps your gut health as well, but it will just make you feel great.
That kind of leads to my final question, which is, what do you both do to help manage your anxiety and your mental health?
You go.
Well, mine's I quite a big issue a few years ago mentally, but I struggled to talk. So that was my biggest problem, talking, but then doing the binge eating. So now I don't stop talking. Well, that's hard with Lizzie because Lizzie likes to.
Two Lizzies here. Well, it's helping us today.
It's definitely helping us today. So for me, I guess I share how I'm feeling a lot. You know, I share how I feel with friends, you know, family. I watch what I put in my body. You know, I'm very clear with that now. I'm very disciplined, although I have days when I'm not. But I guess for me, it's just finding time in the day to walk somewhere in between a meeting. Definitely. Not looking at my phone every 5 minutes, try and staying away from that. Going to bed early. I'm in bed by 8:30, 8:45 most nights. So I get more sleep than I used to. What else do? I don't know, I keep it pretty simple because I try not to say yes to everything. Again, that goes back to mental health. You get asked to do stuff and you might say yes to a lot of things. Learn to say no. You know, focus on you. You're putting pressure on you to do something. Learn to say no if you can, you know, because it's about investing time in yourself. So I spend a bit more time in myself now in a happy way. You know, I make sure that I'm not, you know, if I'm sad, I'll talk to a friend. But if I'm on my own sometimes, it's a great feeling now because it doesn't, I don't know, I feel at peace, and especially when I've fasted. I can sit there and just be totally zen, and I listen to water. If that makes sense. I love the sound of water.
They say that when you go to water or you're around amazing. Water, it's really beneficial for you.
I've got a little water fountain at home, and literally I turn it on probably 3 or 4 times a week. It drives the neighbours mad, but it just trickles.
How big is this fountain?
It's not matter. It's like a water fountain, but I sit there and I can hear it, and I sit there with Buttercup, my dog, and we just sit there for about an hour, and it's just the most peaceful time in my day. You know, we're happy, we're on our own, we're content. So that's what I do.
What about you? Nice. I love that. That's really nice.
How
are you going to top that?
No, I love being outside, so love running and walking the dogs. I think I love cooking for other people as well. That really makes me happy. And just, keeping it really simple and looking after what I put in. But also yesterday I sat with some colleagues and one of our fuel partners was there and we all got offered a burger and I had it. And, you know, there's
no burger.
But what I want,
world exclusive.
What I wanted to lead, like, you should never cut anything out. You know, it's about balance, and it's about having sustainable use. So I had a burger for lunch yesterday, have a salad for today, but enjoy yourself. You know, that's what I say. Keep it simple, get outside, move, and look after what you put in your body.
Oh, that's really great.
What about you?
Oh, what do I do? Oh, I'm not the expert. I don't look after myself. Yeah, I love to be outside. I love walking. I love exercising. I try and go to the gym a couple of times a week. I find when I'm feeling really stressed, just doing a workout or a class at the gym.
Especially after a stressful day at work, getting outside.
Yes, definitely, Just even walking to the gym, I feel better. Just that, being outside for a little bit, especially if people who work from home.
Exactly.
You're entitled to a break, and that's what people, if you work from home, you can still get up and do stuff, and that's, you know, you've got to make time for that.
Yeah, stop in the middle of the day, have a walk.
Yeah, definitely.
You have to really make time and just be aware of your time.
Definitely.
And always talk, and that's what I say as well. You know, everyone's, you know, got something on their shoulder or something they don't feel they can share. They can share. You know, they can share. We've got some great stuff in the business that we're doing, and that's where I learned a lot from not sharing. The feeling I felt when not sharing was just the worst feeling, because as you know, it'll build up and build up and build up, and it'll explode in some way. But sharing that feeling is the most incredible. It's an incredible feeling, and I've met some incredible people over the last few months on the Food and Mood tour, where they'll come up to us and share some unbelievable stories about what they've been through. But I feel empowered by them telling me. It's like, wow, thank you for sharing that, and don't worry, it's safe, you know. But it takes a burden away. Should never be afraid to talk, you know. And food's a great leveler. Sitting down with somebody, breaking a piece of bread, and just sitting down with somebody and just having a chat like we are now. But just being honest with each other, and I think that's a great way of keeping yourself, you know, kind of free thinking and yeah.
And that is one of the biggest parts of Food and Mood, is just being in a safe space where they might talk to us there and then, or they take our details, and we've connected with a lot of people from the Food and Mood tour. And I think you've nailed, talking is the most important thing. Yeah,
definitely. And singing in the kitchen, when you imagine singing.
Yes.
I don't know what you're like if you're in the kitchen on your own, you know. It's like my wife said to me the other day, do you want to dance? Come dance with me. What's it called? Come dance with me, or dance with Charge, whatever it was. And I'm like, no, someone might see me. And then I have to sit back thinking,
no one is here.
I'm in my house.
Did you dance?
No.
Oh.
But those
did you sing?
No, but afterwards you think, oh, I should have done that. Why didn't I do that? So take those moments, those little, I don't know what they're called, but they come along, and just take them and just do it. Yeah, but just do it. Just do.
And no one's watching. And no one cares.
Yeah,
probably.
exactly.
So I think we're all just so self-conscious, aren't we, as we get older? And it's just about having fun. Having fun.
Be happy in yourself. I know it's hard, but you know, find your happy place. There's a lot of pressures at the moment, but you know, finding that balance and friend and colleague that you can talk to is really important. Yeah, and there's plenty of us around. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much.
Well done.
And thank you for everyone for tuning in to FYI, our new BaxterStorey podcast. I've had the absolute amazing pleasure of speaking to Andy and Lizzie. I'll get it right this time. And who've just shared their amazing experience and expertise with us all about the importance of food and mood. Don't forget to subscribe to FYI, and please be sure to leave us a review. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.